Every time you say a clippity clippity clap, which is a lot,
At least once a week.
I always think wiggity wiggity whack because you say it just like that.
Wiggity wiggity whack.
Maybe that's why deep down I just didn't realize.
I mean, probably.
I don't reference like pop culture though, so that's probably not it.
Yeah, you're a little too highbrow
be
for that
that.
type of shit.
Yeah, you would
Yeah.
never. You don't even know
It's a very sophomoric thing.
what kind of culture they're popping.
No, so how could I? I don't even pop banana.
Damn you! We good?
Yeah.
There was a moment
we're
of
good.
panic where I thought we had already started the podcast. I was like, oh no, I didn't even mention who the champion was yet. This is what's happening.
We've been doing it for the last hour. You forgot?
Hello, lore heads, and welcome to the League, exploring the League of Legends.
Nailed it.
Oh,
Hello, lore heads, and welcome to the League, exploring the League of Legends lore from A to Z. My name is Rebecca.
And I'm John.
my name is Mark.
Today, we're talking about the Seneschal of Demacia, Xin Zhao, who was released July 13th, 2010. Still not my birthday. All the July champions. I'm just gonna...
I feel like all the remaining champions are going to be July champions now. Just
Yeah.
ping-ponging around your birthday.
Yeah, it's all right.
I hope so.
There's not a lot left. So, yeah. We got to Xin Zhao.
We did. We made
We
it.
did it. That's it. Didn't get all the way through, but, you know.
This is the final episode, everybody. Sorry to break it to you here.
That'd be so crazy. We just stop like right before the final Z.
Ooh, leave them all stuck wanting more. I kind of like it.
The last one is Zyra. I don't think
gonna
anyone's
say,
going to
it's
give
gotta
a
be
shit,
Zyra, right?
dude. Yeah.
I'm sure she's chock full of lore.
So what does Xin Zhao sound like?
He's got a really generic voice.
He does. So I wrote the
you know
most generic quote down that I could to
Go
do.
for it, yeah.
To triumph.
Said it really.
That's it. That's all he says.
You know what's wild about him is that his pick quote is said in a way that sounds completely different from the rest of his quotes.
Really?
Yeah, because his pick quote, which is the only one I know, is like to the arena. And then all the other ones sound like Jarvan. He just sounds like a guy, just like
Right.
my king commands. You know, I'm Xin
One of the
Zhao.
quotes that I picked.
I'm Xin Zhao. If only he would, so we all know how to say his name.
Well, I won't do the My King commands because Mark
You're not
already
going to do it better
nailed
than
that
Mark.
one. A Demacian does not retreat.
Beautiful.
See?
It's
It's
interesting because they do armor their back.
Yeah,
It's true.
They're not dedicated to this idea.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes they put armor and capes on their back. That's double protection, baby.
But it's weird, right? Because in his pick quote, he's very like breathy. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe it's just me. It just stood
Let
out.
me-
It stood out really hard. Like it felt like I don't know, like they did the
compare.
pick quote.
I read the pick quote and I committed to not doing that one, so I don't even know if I heard it. Don't worry, Rebecca's going to pull it up.
Any
Okay.
second now.
We're going to do a
Woof, woof.
live comparison live in real time.
To the arena.
To the arena.
It does sound more breathy in that one for sure.
He's really out of breath. That's all.
Okay.
The warrior spirit is never broken.
Yeah, it kind of varied. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, it goes
also
back and
sometimes
forth a little.
sometimes he has like a vague accent that they kind of, and sometimes it's not there at all.
I was truly trying to decipher that. I kept listening to his quotes like, what is this accent? Is there an accent? Like,
It feels like the longer the quote is, the more likely the accent is to show up on like the last word.
yes.
Oh, right, I'm supposed to be doing that accent. Sorry, I'm just an intern here. I didn't like.
You know, it is an old champion. That's entirely possible. Actually, no, I know.
I was walking
who
through
did
the
it.
parking lot. Okay. No hate or whatever. It's Lisa. It's
Yeah,
an
no-
old
no
video.
shade at
Probably
all.
didn't good. I'm gonna go ahead and blame not the voice actor. I assume it's like
Yeah.
a voice like director type situation. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, what's he got on his universe page?
He has his bio and 2 short stories that are actually about him and that he's in.
Yeah. And that's like, for the most part, what he's actually like, they've actually got this, the Xin Zhao stuff there. They haven't left a ton of shit out.
Yeah.
Good marks. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
you
shit.
showed up.
Look at you.
Now, let's
Look at
see
you,
if it's
Robert.
any of it's good. I'm just kidding. We've been over all of this.
That's true.
so
We
much
have read
already
all of it.
before. Okay. His bio. Should I get started?
Sure. By Michael Luo.
Thank you. Xin Zhao was a normal boy in Ionia. When he was young, he was a cabin boy on a ship known as Viscero. Noxus took over this ship one day when they were sailed out a little too far, and Xin Zhao was separated from his crew, never saw him again. I feel so bad for little baby Xin Zhao, by the way.
Right?
We don't visit him much, but like he is an Ionian deep down there, and it's just like, oh, where are his parents?
You
He
know
had
where
none.
you know
He
where
had
his
none.
parents
You're right.
are. He's Ionian.
He fell out of the Syndra orphan castle, and
They have so many orphans, they're giving them away. You can't afford not to.
get orphan.
He wasn't even an orphan, but he... Wow, man. Oh, my God.
Shit.
Fuck me.
Anyway, Xin Zhao had to serve the man who took him prisoner, but eventually other people noticed he was a really skilled fighter with a spear. He ended up going to the Reckoning arenas. I assume that's the one that Draven eventually runs, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did really well there, took on the name Viscero to remind him of his roots, and had a lot of sponsors who got a ton of money from Xin Zhao's victories. He's the one who could never be defeated, which will come up later. This was all during Borum Darkwill's like bullshit. There were many battles to be won, and Xin Zhao was eventually bought out by the military along with some other reckoners, and they were sent on a ship to Kalstead to take it over, but Demacian soldiers were like 10 feet away, apparently.
Just slapped them away. No. Ours.
Yeah, this was not a fair battle. They're mad outcomped in this one, guys. They're not going to take it. Too many tanks. So a lot of the Reckoners just kind of like fled or I guess surrendered. I don't know. They just said like ran away or something like that. Because they knew they weren't going to win, but Xin Zhao kept fighting until he was surrounded by the Dauntless Vanguard. He wasn't killed though. Jarvan III granted them all freedom, understanding that they weren't like there by choice. Xin Zhao admired this mercy, not something they have a lot of in Noxus, and he was a fan of it. And he, pledged himself to be Jarvan's protector. Over decades, Xin Zhao became great friends with J3 and the bestest bodyguard ever to the king and his son. Just the greatest. Then the insurrection happened. Jarvan sent Xin Zhao away. We'll get more on that later. It's just in the bio it says he's sent away during this very important Silas crap. So he left Demacia for like a minute. Silas's big battle happened and the king was killed. Second Xin Zhao left. Poor guy. He expected to be killed in return because he had pledged himself to Jarvan, but J4 reminded him that his pledge was to Demacia, not just the king. And that's kind of where the bio leaves off with him.
Yeah.
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 It's pretty lucky that his fishing boat as a kid had such like a cool gladiatorial sounding.
Yeah.
Right. Could have been like the Mary Sue or something like that. Or what is it? Holes Mary Lou.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Something that stuck with me too was that the fishing boat, which I think we can probably assume this is the area that he was born.
Yeah.
But it was off the coast of a place called Raikan, which seems wild to me that Rakan has not tried to claim sovereignty over that yet. Especially given that Noxus just pulled up to this boat and was like, hey, you're ours now. You can just do that, Rakan. That could be yours.
Did you know the Ionians on the fishing boats are free? The government doesn't want you to know. You can just take them, right? I've got 300 Ionian cabin boys.
So that's what they have a lot of. Orphans and cabin boys.
Yeah, I don't know. I like I ended up liking Xin Zhao over all of his pieces. I guess I kind of like talking about the bio that he's kind of gone through like a whole. He's older, right? He's gone through a whole thing, and I kind of like picking up. It reminds me of like Aurelia, where she's been through a very long sort of already kind of character arc and journey, and we're kind of picking up there, and it's kind of a neat character to follow instead of like at the someone who's like 20 something and ready to take on the world a little more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I like that we don't get it like as much in the bio, but kind of in the short stories, while we don't flash back to his times in the Reckoning Pits, like we do kind of see the impact that they had on the other people around him. Like I like seeing people's past show up in their present, even if we don't, we don't have to have a cutaway scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, we'll talk about it in the stories, but I think overall he's kind of, I think both stories are pretty well written. They're not like too like obvious, or like there's not like massive amounts of like exposition dumps. It all feels pretty naturally written, I guess I would say, like in how he interacts with other people see him and regard him.
Which is good and bad. I feel like it's good because it's well written, and bad because I don't have a lot to say about them. They're good.
I mean, maybe we'll talk about it at the end, but the biggest issue he runs into is that like a lot of everything with him is tied into like J4 and like what's going to happen with him and J4's relationship and the Mage Rebellion, and then Mage Seeker just kind of like kind of just like is done with it all, And I don't remember him even being in that game. As I know. So it's like, I don't know what we're gonna do with old Xin Zhao.
I would have loved a post-credit scene with Xin Zhao.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll get into it later, but yeah, that's the thing. I did find it a little awkward, I will say, in the bio, where it kind of goes from him being kidnapped to just sort of being like he's a really good fighter. Like he's like exceptionally good. I don't know how that happened, because as far as I know, he was just a silly little cabin boy last I saw him. But
yeah, I wasn't sure if like at the very beginning of the bio it says that like he had never lost, and I'm curious if that was like that was like current times, and then like and let's flash back to his time as like a cabin boy, or whether it was like I don't know, he just liked to fight a lot and he never lost even as like a kid. But
he doesn't seem like someone who would have liked that, but I don't know.
Yeah, like he doesn't.
I don't know.
And this is even toned down off of his old lore.
That's true. At least with I don't really remember the exact details of the old lore. I did read it. I feel like he wasn't. I don't remember.
He used to participate in the fleshings, which sounds real gross, and we'll get into later.
So you have a website, or
he's got an only spear.
Later.
Shut up. Didn't even really make a lot of sense.
It's just because I thought of Ionia and I thought of Karma with her fans, and then I thought maybe they just use their weapons.
I like that.
That was my quick thought process.
I think it worked.
The science behind the joke.
With John Deslis.
Professor John Deslis. Okay, thank you.
Right, I'm sorry.
I do like in the bio too, it says because it ends before Jarvan has kind of taken the throne. This is after his dad died, but before he's actually taken over rule. It says the throne lies vacant, as the other noble houses fear that the prince may not yet be fit to rule. Xin Zhao has no such concerns. And like, my guy, you probably should. You should probably share some of their concerns.
I mean, to be fair, at the end of the other story, I think one of the last lines is like him trying to ignore this deep sense of unease that is welling inside him. So it's like they're just trying to bury the lead a little, right? It's like yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about the bio. Like I said, I like the setup, right, for his character. And I like the setup for him and Jarvan too. Like, I don't know, the nice kind of adopted uncle, setup is fun, is neat. I don't know. I'm into it. I'm open to it. I'm really into or open to a lot of what's going on with Xin Zhao, I guess. I don't know what it is about it specifically, but for some reason it kind of worked for me.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, this is good. This works. And I am having a hard time of saying why, especially because, like, if I were to sit here and describe Xin Zhao, I don't know if I could come up with, like, a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like, him as a person.
He feels a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
I think...
yeah.
I think holistically, it's that both stories, it's like the opposite of Jarvan, where with Jarvan, like, all of his stuff, we were never, ever in his head, and that was at least the frustration I had. It's like, I don't know where this guy's at, I don't know how he feels about all this stuff. With Xin Zhao, it's all in his head, and you know exactly, like, where he's at, how he feels about things, and especially in the Aftermath story, it ends in a really nice, like, I think it just ends in a really good place. There's, like, there's a lot of interpersonal, like, drama that is set up, and a lot of like inner conflict that is kind of welling within him, and like I said, it's this type of thing that's just ripe with potential. It's like you could really get into some really heavy stuff, really, that's really like tied to a strong like relationship between him and Jarvan, and so I think that's what, at least in my mind, is kind of what's working about him, is that we have a really, he doesn't have like a strong character voice, but we really are like have a really solid understanding of him and some of these pivotal moments in his life too. Like we see two really pivotal moments in his life, and we're in his head the whole time, which works well, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's like,
as
opposed to a lot of the times when we say potential, and it basically means like they squandered an opportunity. This is more like potential energy, as opposed to like kinetic. Like they left it in a place where like it was all spun up and ready to shoot, and like, I don't mind that we didn't get the immediate.
Oh.
All right.
The way you just said that, it was.
Was it though?
Yeah.
Was it?
Just like, you can't float it across the plate like that.
Come on, you're questioning me, Mr. Pervert. All right. Anyway, I like your elephant impression. Oh my God, Poppy and I. Speaking of bad impressions, walking to the grocery store, and a car drove by us. She got really excited, and she is not good at car noises, so she just went like it just blew the biggest raspberry ever as it drove by. I was like, yeah, that is what they do.
It's like a cartoon old jalopy,
right?
Did it backfire and she got a bunch of soot in her face?
I really bring me back. Anyway, we can move on to the stories, I think.
That's fine. Yeah, the bio's like, it's all just set up, right? And it's all stuff we're going to get into. Yeah, so we could do the first one. It's What Once Sailed Free by Michael Luo.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, my internet's being real wonky right now. Y'all are freezing some. I assume I'm doing the same for y'all.
You're coming through great.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. As long as y'all can hear me, that's fine.
So weird.
So it's from Xin Zhao's perspective, and it's actually back in time. It's the moment where it's immediately after the Battle of Kalstead, right, where he's been captured and he's awaiting execution, and like I said, he essentially expects that, well, it's war. Either you win or you lose, and if you lose, you die. So he's pretty like, I guess I'm just going to die. when will they get around to it? He's being kept apart from the other prisoners because he's so dangerous. But the Demacians are being kind of, they're being nice enough to him. They're feeding him, which is something he already didn't expect. They, as they're kind of feeding him, and he's kind of sitting there eating his soup, they're sort of talking about Jarvan the Third, and he sees that, he's going through a lot of like realizations across this story where he's seeing that like, wow, they really like Jarvan the Third. He's like, he kind of realizes like, wow, we were just kind of sitting here to die. We had no way in hell of winning this. These people are all organized. They all care for each other, and they're all fighting with purpose. And we had none of that. He kind of sees that they all, like I said, live with purpose, and they are kind of a part of something greater. Whereas his life up until now has been like, well, either I fight and win and live, or I don't and I die. So I fight to win and not die. And as he's sitting there eating his soup, they're kind of talking about him because he killed a lot of people. He's kind of an oddity, we'll say. And they're like, oh, I heard the other Noxians calling him Viscero, and then one of the Demacians recognizes the name and is like, oh, you're not just a Reckoner, you're the Reckoner. You're like the one who's never lost. You're like the guy, right?
I know him.
I know. Would you sign my chest? And,
The whole thing.
right?
I love how they're just so genuinely confused. You're like, why did you say your name was Xin Zhao?
They kept calling
Viscero.
him like a different name, too, mispronouncing his name.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
They found different
something
ways
Jaw.
to mispronounce it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the way that everyone I think probably still mostly mispronounces his name, and especially in like NA and stuff. And it is funny because they make a real point of like writing it out in the way that it's being pronounced wrong. Mm-hmm. There's some line, I wish I'd written it down, about like he never knew that the two syllables could be said like so
So wrong.
so
Right.
wrong.
So egregiously wrong.
Egregious, yeah. But yeah, they're caring for the prisoners. They're getting their wound. He sees that the prisoners are getting their wounds treated, himself included, and it's just building more and more of like Jarvan the Third up in his head, because Jarvan has ordered this to happen, and he's also had some run-ins with Tiana Crownguard. Tiana Crownguard is there, and she does not like him. They have a run-in really early on. She is not a fan of him, and I don't know if it's because he killed a bunch of people, or if it's her first day on the job. Like this is her first like outing or whatever. She's not into it. Now, eventually, he gets brought before Jarvan III, because he is greeting every prisoner, pardoning them, and then giving them a little like bus fare. And he goes in, he kneels, he gets his money, and Jarvan III is like, "Well, you're free to go, but you're kind of interesting. What's up? What's your deal? What's your backstory? If you were a character in a video game, what's like the 3 paragraphs that you would use to describe yourself?" And Xin Zhao is kind of up front and on, and she's like, well, I was from Ionia, and I got, Shanghaied, and then I've been doing this. He kind of just spills his guts to J3. And Jarvan is kind of like, the whole time he's sort of like chuckling, and he's just sort of into it. He's like, oh, this is weird. That's kind of neat. Huh. And Tiana is also trying to interrupt him the whole time. She doesn't like him still. But Xin Zhao, at the end of it all, is sort of like, he kind of realizes that he's been talking with Jarvan III about things that he hasn't talked with anybody about in Noxus, right? This guy he barely knows. And he kind of determines that he would like to be a part of this thing that is bigger than him. And so he says to J3, I don't just want to leave and go off and do my own thing. I want to like join your guard. I want to be your protect you, be your bodyguard. And J3 is like chuckling. He's like, oh, it's an interesting idea. I don't know if I necessarily need it. Xin Zhao is like, all right, I guess I'll go all out one last time. And he does this slick maneuver where, he throws the coins in Tiana's face, and in one smooth motion disables 2 guards, and has a spear at Jarvan III's throat in an instant, just to show that he could do it, right? And again, Tiana is like, oh, we're gonna fucking kill this guy, and Jarvan III is like, Tiana, chill. He's just
fucking simmer down, girl, simmer down.
It's a demonstration, Tiana. Let the man speak.
He's like a security consultant. He's just showing us where all of the
he's a white hat.
Right, yeah. Exactly, right? Anyway, so Jarvan III's like, yeah, you're pretty good. You seem pretty fun. This will be funny. Let's go back to Demacia, and you can train up, and maybe you can be a part of my retinue. Jarvan IV is also there. He's a little kid. He doesn't say anything, but he gasps and etc. at all the right times, He looks very stern.
He's an active listener.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a little end scene where I think they're heading back to Demacia. They're not there yet. They're on the road, and at this point, Xin Zhao is like, he's free to move about the camp. Jarvan III has turned off the fasten seatbelt signs so he can move around the cabin. Anyway, he's walking around at night, and then he gets blindsided and dragged into a tent, and in there is Tiana with a bunch of her men, and she's like, I don't like you. If anything happens to Jarvan III, and before she can kind of finish it even, he kind of grabs her sword that she has out, and he kind of points it at his throat. It's like, if anything happens to Jarvan III, you yourself personally can kill me. which is a setup for the very start, like the start of our next story. But we'll talk about this one first.
It is funny that is the second time he's been able to disable the head of the Dauntless Vanguard in like 20 minutes. Like, you think she would have been looking out this time. Like, he's not going to get my sword again. Not twice.
You got that spear, but this time I got a sword. Let's see if I bet she's never even seen one of these fucking things. Right? Yeah, I don't know.
She's genuinely confused. First, he just holds the spear up to Jarvan's throat. This time, he holds her sword up to his throat. He's like, maybe he doesn't know how sharp sides work. He doesn't know that you're supposed to stab in. He thinks you're supposed to stop.
When he held the spear up to Jarvan the Third, he holds the back end, the blunt end, up to him. Maybe
we'll let him go. He's an idiot. He doesn't even know how sharp edges work.
It's like a toddler.
Man, Tiana's so unlikable.
She really is, man.
Just the worst.
Yeah, I don't know why she's so aggro in this one. I don't know. Like I said, it could just be that it's like I said, it's her first assignment out and doing the job, and maybe it's that he did kill a bunch of her soldiers, so maybe that's why she doesn't like him. You know, maybe she's just generally untrust or doesn't trust people. I don't know what it is, but she doesn't like him. She really doesn't like him here.
She should have more of a Noxian mindset, you know? If you killed a bunch of your soldiers, you probably had shitty soldiers.
Yeah, I suppose. But, yeah, I don't know. I talked through it when I was going through it before, but I really did like that. I don't know. Like I said, you've seen a lot of him going through these sort of moments of realization, right? Of like, you know, when he's talking to J3 and he kind of realizes he's talking about things that he's talking more honestly than he has his whole time in Noxus, and kind of thinking about how, like, you know, realizing that they were sent there with no, like, just to die, or that life in Noxus, especially what he was doing, was just, there was no, like, purpose to it, right? He was kind of like without, you know, he existed just to exist. And this is like, it's kind of, I don't know, nice seeing someone find, like, a little bit of purpose in their life, right? It's like, oh, maybe one day I'll have purpose in my life too, like Xin Zhao, you know what I mean?
He says with his beautiful child in the next room.
That's true, that's fair.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. Who are we talking about? Xin Zhao.
Well, actually, that just reminds me. Something that this reminded me of was, like, I'd forgotten how much I liked J3 in this story.
Yeah.
I feel like by the time the Mage Rebellion comes around, we had kind of soured on J3. But you know what? I'm back on his side again. I think,
you know,
I think his inaction, while it sucks a lot, it makes a lot more sense than Azir's inaction. These are like polar opposites, I think, of someone who let a problem fester for too long without doing anything. But I feel like J3 was, you know, genuinely more understandable and more, not sympathetic, but like,
human?
I feel like he genuinely regretted his decision, as opposed to ending thinking he was the bad guy, or he was the good guy.
Yeah.
He ended thinking like, God, I really fucked that up. Like, man, I did a bad, guys. Whereas Azir ended like, wait, my slave friend isn't my friend? What?
You're right. We're not talking about that story yet, though, are we?
We're not, but I mean, there's a lot of J3 in this too.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a lot of J3,
yeah.
and this story. I feel like this story has the most J3 in it, and reminded me like I like J3.
Yeah.
He's cool. He's chill in my book.
You know, I mean, I think you're right, and it helps that you have other stories like the Fragile Legacies, I want to say, from Sona, where he's also in a fair amount, and you know, he's even there saying things or doing things that we know are kind of maybe wrong or are rooted in emotion and aren't the correct moral thing to do, but it does feel very like you kind of said, just like understandable and human. Like, he comes off as flawed, but in a way that's like you don't, you know, you can forgive him much more than you could like an Azir type, for example, almost.
Yeah, because I feel like one of the things that Xin Zhao noticed about Demacia was like they have each other's back, and they care about each other a lot. And I feel like a lot of the poor decisions in Demacian higher up leadership. I mean, obviously not from the Mage Seeker side, they suck, fuck them, but like, you know, J3, J4 are those type of like really emotional responses due to tragedy from like people they really cared about and just, you know, over-indexing real hard in one direction.
For sure.
But yeah. I do. Zhao has a quote here too that said, "Fate flows like the four winds. His elders once said, and no man can know its course until he sails it." Which really makes me think that fucking Xin Zhao was hanging out with Yasuo's master at some point there.
Mm-hmm. Maybe wind is just like a really fun topic to talk about in Ionia. Everyone's always talking about that fucking wind.
Nutty for wind.
So hot right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty long story. I kind of forgotten how long this one goes for something that's like. I guess the other thing that I like about this even more than his other story is that there's not really like any real action. There's like the little like Sherlock Holmesian sequence, you know, Robert Downey Jr. type where he discombobulates the guys or whatever. But aside from that, it's him just kind of hanging out and just like watching. You know, he kind of strikes me as the type of guy who's like very, you know, still waters run deep. You know, he's quiet. He just sits and observes. And I personally just like those kind of characters, like someone who's there's a lot going on underneath a little bit. It's kind of fun. And so it makes it's a smart choice, I guess, to spend the whole time in his head for someone who's not going to talk a lot. You know what I mean?
He's the definition of slow and smart, not fast and dumb.
Yeah, you know, he and Yi would get along. I've been thinking when I was going through this.
I'd really love to see Xin Zhao like back in Ionia, like at some point. It's interesting to me that he never thought to go when he had a little bit more freedom, I guess.
Yeah, I think it could be. It's in one of these stories, I feel like, where he kind of thinks. I think he has a thought that is kind of about that, and it just sort of is like. Essentially, the idea is that it's just it's not even like a home that he really resonates with anymore because it was so long ago, right?
Yeah.
But you know, it would be. I do agree though, and it would be really nice. Wasn't Sona and her mom like potentially going to Ionia or something like that? Mm-hmm. I would love to see like if they. This won't happen, but if they decided to like actually deal with the Mage Rebellion in something other than Mage Seeker, I would love to see him eventually. I don't know, maybe split away from J4 and escort Lady whatever. I remember what their actual names were. Sona and her mom.
Lady Sona and Lady Sona's mom.
Sona's mom.
Mrs.
Sona
Lady Sona.
Yeah. But escort them to Ionia or something like that could be kind of cool. You know, and he's suited for it, right? He's a protector.
Yeah.
So.
That would be nice. It would explain his absence too. Like, I would accept that all happened during the Mage Seeker game. And that's why he's not it.
I'm open to it, and I'll get into it. I'll complain about it. Get into it, whatever I'm going to do. More of them after we do the next story. It's just like I like it, but at the same time, I would have loved for them to have really dug in deep into him and J4's relationship.
I can't believe he's not in Mage Seeker.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know if they didn't, or they forgot how close he is to the Jarvans, the Jarvan fam, you know? I don't know.
Maybe he just thought he wasn't as interesting as Shyvana. I don't know.
They both should have been around, though, because they're both, like, tied up into it. I don't know.
He would have been a fun-ass boss, I will say, too. He would have been a lot of fun to fight like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because of, like, the, you know, inability to hit, like, ranged attacks on him and shit. That would have been a cool thing to play with.
Sure. Oh yeah, you could have done all sorts of stuff, man. Maybe you could knock the spear out of his hand, and then you could shoot the chains over to the spear and use that. Like, I don't know what you could do.
Shit.
We'll workshop it later.
For this game that's not going to get updated.
We'll put it in.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't think there's a big modding scene for Mage Seeker, I'll be honest with you.
Not yet.
That does remind me, there was a little line I liked where the soldiers are sitting around him while he's eating his soup, and they're trying to remember like which Jarvan they're on, right? Or, like,
there's only 3. Like,
I know. I guess there's technically 4, but
technically 4, just not 4 that have led anything at that point.
So, That's funny. There's like little bits of humor like that, and like the name mispronunciation, that kind of little bits of levity that I think help this story too.
Yeah.
So.
It's a good one, though. I can't believe he gets 2 good stories.
Right?
It's kind of shocking. It's really strange because it's like I said, he doesn't have a strong character voice. There's like his quotes are just nothing, right? He's just a spear guy in League of Legends, but I don't know. They made him work. All right. Do we want to do Aftermath by is this Jeremy Reynolds Lene? Is that right?
Yeah, this is Anthony Reynolds.
Anthony Reynolds. Sorry. Yeah. Why did I? They're the same person. I'm sorry. My brain's just melting. Anyway. So yeah, this is also from Xin Zhao's perspective, and it is, as the title suggests, immediately in the aftermath of Salas's big to-do and J3's assassination. It's like the morning after, right? I assume so. It's like mere hours after everything's kind of gone down. Xin Zhao is he's still like almost in a state of shock is kind of where he's at the start of it all, because he feels like he's obviously utterly failed to protect his best friend Jarvan III, and he has resigned himself to go find Tiana Crown Guard and get killed. That's what he's going to go do, you know. And he's kind of walking around through the palace, and he's kind of seeing how everyone's either like shell shocked or like scared or feels bad for him, because like no one blames him, but you know, obviously he blames himself. He shows up to Tiana's office, and she's out, she's doing something else, and he's like, oh, fuck me, great, I gotta go. It just makes it all take longer, right? He kind of meanders to where, like, he starts meandering, I guess, out to go find her, but on the way he can't help but go by the training grounds, and there he hears the sounds of someone beating wood really hard. Okay,
Mark, honey,
you know
that
done.
that was not the best choice there, and you know it. You know in your heart. I see it in your eyes. You know.
He peeps in and he sees Jarvan IV with a firm grip on his sword. He's furiously beating that wood, and he's like, "Oh, I better leave."
I'm picturing it all. I don't hate it, but
Jarvan IV is mad. He's having an emotional moment, and he is fighting a training dummy. He's wagging. He's working out those emotions. It's a really sad scene.
Then his emotions get everywhere.
Right? In the hair, and it's like, oh.
Not again.
I said, yeah. So he's okay. So that's what's happening. He's like, he goes to leave, but Jarvan spots him, and Jarvan essentially demands that he grab a training sword, and as soon as he does, Jarvan starts attacking him. And the whole time he's sort of accusatorily demanding to know where was Xin Zhao, where in the world was Xin Zhao. While they're having this kind of sparring, you know, Jarvan is attacking. Xin Zhao is kind of letting him attack. He's just kind of deflecting blows. At some point, J4 kind of throws the training sword aside, grabs his actual lance, and then demands that Xin Zhao get his actual spear, and they fight for realsies. So while this is all happening, throughout the story, there are these little interjections of like a flashback, and it's Xin Zhao with Jarvan III, and Jarvan III is furiously pinning a letter, talking about how, like, I should have done this ages ago. We gave the Mage Seekers too much power. He finishes it. He hands it to Xin Zhao. He's like, you take this to Lord Eldred, the head of the Mage Seekers, and you put it in his hands. You don't give it to a runner, and you don't give it to a lackey. You go and you do it right now. I don't care that we haven't found Silas. I don't care what's going on. You go do it right now. And then we kind of cut back to the fight where Xin Zhao eventually tells Jarvan what had happened, that he had been ordered to take the letter. The reason he had been deflecting and had not been answering, he had been kind of blaming himself and not really giving a straight answer, is because he didn't want to. The idea is that he didn't want to like put any blame on Jarvan the Third. I think is how they kind of phrase it. And that's kind of what gets J4 to kind of stop and actually sort of like, you know, access his feelings, and they both sort of break down and you know, finally share their grief a little bit with each other. They compose themselves. You know, Jarvan kind of puts on the king face, and they both kind of go out and start walking through the palace, and they're going to meet with the remaining advisory council to the king. And before they get in there, Jarvan IV is like, "Hey, by the way, what was that letter that, like, what did it say, by the way?"
Did he mention me?
Like, do you know what the deal was? Like, was it a grocery list? So Xin Zhao gives it to him. J4 opens it, reads the letter, crumples it all angry-like, and gives it back to Xin Zhao and is like, destroy this. And then he immediately turns around and walks into the council chambers. And so there's this moment where Xin Zhao is like looking into the room, and there's Jarvan with Tiana on one side and her husband, Lord Eldred, the Mage Seeker head, on the other side. And they're all kind of looking at him. And Xin Zhao, after just a quick pause, takes the letter, crumples it up, throws it in the fire, and goes to stand by Jarvan's the Fourth's place. But like I said earlier, he is trying to quell the massive sense of unease that is writhing inside of his guts when he goes to do it. And that's kind of where we leave them. Let's begin is Jarvan the Fourth's closing line on the whole thing. So,
and then he's not a part of it at all.
And then scene missing.
Let's begin.
For Mage
Oh,
Seeker.
you though, stand outside. We've got a whole game we've got to do here, and you don't factor into it. So
it's like, oh, I think I left my pen. Can you go get it? And he steps out. And it's like, close the door. Lock it.
Yeah, I really like this story though. I know we read it with Jarvan. I don't remember what I thought of it originally, but I do like it. I like the way it unfolds.
For sure.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
a very like good look at grief, you know.
For sure.
Yeah, because it's all happens very quickly in the bio, but you know, realizing just how close the two of them were, I don't know. You really see it here.
And you also see both sides of grief in their interaction, because like you see Xin Zhao's very much like, this was all my fault. I should have done something. It doesn't matter that I was given a direct order from the king and argued against the order several times and was told that I had to do this. Still, I should have been here. Versus Jarvan's like, I need someone to blame. This was your fault, probably. Okay, maybe it wasn't, but I was mad.
These guys are great metaphors for like getting tilted in League of Legends,
yeah.
Right? Like both sides of it. It's like where you're like, oh, I'm so fucking stupid. Why did I miss that CS? Oh, and then you're fucked for the rest of the game. Or the other side, which is, oh, my fucking jungler is so fucking stupid, and you're fucked for the rest of the game, right?
Question mark, question mark, question mark.
But it's true. I actually forgot to mention that, yeah, obviously Xin Zhao didn't deliver the letter because once he heard, like, I guess alarm bells or whatever, something that bad had happened to the king, he kind of abdicated his little duty.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's weird about this story, I will say, is the idea that, like, that he would actually get executed by Tiana. Like, that's something that I kind of, even going back through it, I kind of forgot about that. That's a big thrust at the very start of it. And then he gets in it with J4, and it kind of, like, it almost, like, exits the whole story. He's just sort of like, hey, you didn't make your pledge to the king. You made it to Demacia. But, like, even if he had made it specifically to the king, like, you know, this is his essentially his nephew, who he's the only family left. It seems pretty reasonable that Xin Zhao would, like, just want to be there for him and help him in any way that he can, right?
Yeah.
Rather
There's an
than
alternate universe
executed.
out there where Tiana Crown Guard was in her office.
Yeah, I'm fully convinced Tiana would have been like, yeah,
she
you're
would have
right.
killed
Get
him, I think.
fucked.
And then it's like, what
Interesting.
happens to her? Would Jarvan have been okay? Like, obviously wouldn't have been okay with it, but, like, would he have had to understand it, you know?
Yeah, that's the only little stumbling bit. But yeah, it's like talking about the grief thing. Like there is like a moment where he's walking through, and I think he passes by like a study that he and J3 used to hang out in, and it kind of hits him that oh yeah, we used to get drunk in there and bullshit, and I'm never gonna hear him laugh again. And then he kind of realizes, oh shit, Jarvan's never gonna hear that again. Like, if this hurts me, what is he feeling, right? I like that his thoughts very quickly go to like trying to think about where Jarvan's at and like what kind of help he might need. You know, he doesn't even want to interrupt his little training thing just because he's like, he needs to be left alone right now.
What a great uncle.
Right. I feel like there's a handful of Demacians that I like. Mm-hmm. You're in there, Xin Zhao.
Yeah, he's in there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, fun, and it is so funny that obviously he's not originally from there, right? You know, it's like, but again, he's like he sees the ideals, right? He's like Poppy in that way too, where he kind of sees the idealized version and is one of the best people to uphold it. But yeah, I really like the where their relationship's at. You know, I like that they have such a strong emotional connection and they are a family, and I think that's really compelling when we get to that end sequence, because it's like there's so much. At least for me, there's such a feeling of dread after. Like I said, when he's looking at them all in that room and they're all like staring him down, especially Jarvan is kind of like, you're gonna come be by my side, right? And they've gone through this whole thing. You know, he has these thoughts about how, you know, he knows that Jarvan has to, you know, being the kind of, I guess, king to be, assumedly, has to put on this brave face that he can't emote. You know, he has to kind of hold this sort of regal authority for everyone else. I don't know, I really like where they're at. I think it could be a really fun exploration into like, how do you deal with having someone like family who you care for and love and who's making these horrible decisions, and how do you help them? How do you be there for them? Like, at what point do you need to stop being there for them? You know what I mean? Like, because those are things that people run into all the time in real, like IRL, right? Yeah. So, and that's what I mean when it's like, I really wish that we could get more into that. You know, I would really like to see, I don't know, Xin Zhao's heart get broken of seeing what J4 is, you know, could, you know, becomes, right? Because I think he even has a line in this story too about, like, you know, they're talking about J3 being dead, and Xin Zhao's like, well, you know, your dad thought that we should maybe not be such dicks to the mages, and Jarvan's like, yeah, we should have killed them all, and Xin Zhao's like, whoa, whoa, dude, it's like, not only that's heavy, and on top of that, you used to be someone who was pretty sympathetic, so something has massively shifted. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, we definitely missed that because, like, we get that moment with Shyvana, because, like, Shyvana's another one of those, like, real close friends of Jarvan, who also is kind of magical. So, and we get that moment in Mage Seeker where she crosses the line. She's like, all right, well, I mean, this is who you are now. Like, obviously I have no place in this life anymore. I guess just like, I'm gonna fuck off. You know, when you come to your senses, I guess come find me, but like, peace. It would be great to get a moment like that from someone who, you know,
I don't know
grew
that
up with him.
Zhao would leave him.
Maybe he wouldn't, right? And I
don't think that he would. Yeah.
I'd like to see that, because it seems like something that would absolutely tear at Xin Zhao to do that, right? To stand by and see these things that he knows are wrong happening, right? And even more so that they're coming they're coming from the hand of Jarvan IV, who he, like, you know, could you just imagine these stories where he's remembering little baby boy J4 and how innocent and kind he used to be, and here he is turned into something that he doesn't even recognize. You know, it's like, I don't know, man. J4 in general and this whole story is like such a good opportunity to like to explore like how people who getting like radicalized and turned into like becoming filled with, you know, hate, right, and how it affects their relationships, and how like it blinds them to the people in their life that they care for, who, like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Like, yeah. You could really easily pull it into real world shit. I don't know. It really makes me I get so frustrated with Mage Seeker, and this has brought it all bubbling back up again, because it's like, you know, this needs more time and more room to get into all these things. So,
yeah,
I don't know, man,
for sure. And it does kind of, I guess, to your point too, like, about whether or not he would leave Jarvan, it kind of exposes one of the foibles of Xin Zhao too, where like he has made that vow to Demacia, but like, you know, in his head that vow was always to J3. It was like, he loves Demacia, but the vow was to J3, and J3 was like, you know, like, don't worry about it. Your vow is to Demacia. Don't worry about it. I still want you to serve Demacia. You know, he's still not serving Demacia. He's still on the J4. Like, he's still strictly serving the king right now. Like, that's that message, despite trying to be hounded into him by J3 and J4 now, like, it's definitely not resonating.
I know. And wouldn't that be wouldn't it be a great thing if it came that like him and J4 come to a head and he kind of throws that back at him that like I'm swore this thing to Demacia and Demacia is this and it is not whatever it is that you're turning it into. You know, like just telling you the pieces are all like they feel like they're all there. The more and more I thought about this, I don't know, man.
And you know what? Maybe like
right.
at post Ruination, post like short story, post game, all that stuff. We then got an Alawi Yorick story. So who knows? Maybe there's another story waiting for us here about the Mage Rebellion, post Mage Seeker. Who knows?
I mean, we'll see. I don't know, man. I feel like Riot has I think they've kind of wrapped it up as neatly as they care to, and I think they don't want to touch it again for a long fucking time, if you want my opinion.
Closed the chains on that book.
Yeah. This story also reminded me, I think I had said it earlier, but it did remind me of that Fragile Legacies. And that one's also about people dealing with grief and the death of someone who they love, you know. So I don't know, it just gave me some rememberies of it.
Now, he shows up in one other place, which is just the Exemplar of Demacia, which is the Jarvan bio. The only real new thing we learn here is that in addition to combat, he also taught Jarvan about the spiritual philosophies of Ionia.
Oh.
So he was
he remembers that from his childhood, huh?
I know, right?
They probably get that in him real quick in Ionia, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
that's probably true.
It seems like one speech from someone like Yasuo's master, if it's like 10 minutes, could feel like it lasted 3 years. So it probably really sticks with you.
They've invented time dilation in Ionia. It's called being fucking boring. Oh, you know, that was something that I had forgotten from that last story, not to before we get too far away from it, is that they go into how the lance that Jarvan uses is a super cool duper lance that Orlon made, funny enough. But in J4, when he was a little kid, it's like, I want to use that weapon. But before he could learn to use it, literally anybody else had to learn to use it first so they could teach him. So Xin Zhao learned how to use it and taught him. And so I thought it was a neat sort of element of they're having this sort of fight, quote unquote, and Jarvan's fighting using this thing that is such a special thing to them, right? Like those two specifically, this lance is like such a thing that bonds those two, and for it to be being wielded in that way, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of poignant, you know what I mean?
It had big Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon vibes when he had to fight against her wielding the Green Destiny.
It's been a long ass time since I've seen that movie.
Someone is so pumped right now that you just referenced that, John. I hope so anyway. John's a real big fan of Crouching Tiger.
We should watch it next time we're hanging out. We'll do that and was it Forbidden Kingdom? Which was the one?
Forbidden Kingdom.
God,
yes.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Okay, we'll do like a double feature
2.
across. Okay,
triple feature.
Across 3 days.
That, didn't you? No, we got to do. If we're all going to get together and watch movies, then we should just add Return to Oz to the one that we all watch together, because that's some shit that you watch high is going to fuck you up.
Then I will be sober.
We'll block out a week.
Movie week.
We'll bang out some movies.
Hell yeah. Now he is in a cinematic. Telstone, King's Gambit. He's playing Telstones against Jarvan.
Oh.
We don't get to see who wins.
Oh, okay.
Did they play once and they're like, oh, okay, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Oh, ouch.
This is not very exciting. I could be killing someone right now.
IRL.
Now he's got some old lore. You want to hear about it?
I do.
Now I will say, a lot of his old lore is kind of similar. Like, they kept a lot of the same beats. But one thing that I wanted to put here was I mentioned that he competed in the fleshing pits.
Right.
And I wanted
to put that in my brain.
I did. So there was this bit from the bio. Prior to the formation of the league, Noxus was renowned for a spectacle called the Fleshing. It was a gladiatorial event with a cruel twist. As a fighter won matches, his number of opponents, generally prisoners of war, fought simultaneously would increase. This meant that there was an eventual death for every contender, but with unparalleled glory. So basically, you kill someone, then you don't get to leave. They just put 2 people against you instead. You kill both of them, and then you got to fight 3 people. So what was meant to be Xin Zhao's last fight was up against 300 soldiers, which they mentioned was 6 times the previous record of the Fleshing Pits.
Yeah, good for him.
Right. Now, Jarvan the Second in this story, hearing of this unprecedented feat, infiltrated the arena to offer him an alternative: serve Demacia and punish those who ultimately sentenced him to death in exchange for his freedom. Obviously, he accepted, astonished that a king would risk his own life on his behalf. And then, under the cover of a prearranged Demacian assault on Noxus, Jarvan liberated Xin Zhao and his 300 opponents, and during the retreat, Xin Zhao took a poisoned dart meant for Jarvan. This act of loyalty from a man who vowed no allegiance earned Xin Zhao a spot at his side until the day the king died. How he survived that poison dart, they don't specify. He just did.
Okay.
It wasn't very good poison.
Yeah, it was shitty poison.
It's like poison ivy. Just made it very itchy.
It was not that Isolde.
It was
poison.
not that fucking insta-kill bullshit.
Right? It like grazed her barely and she just passes on.
Now, in the service of his son, King Jarvan III, Xin Zhao is stepping into a new ring, the fields of justice, to fight for his adopted country and to honor the legacy of the man who gave purpose to his life.
That was beautiful.
Give it up.
Now, he shows up in a few Journal of Justice articles, too.
Okay.
First off, we got issue 13.
Oh, his old lore, by the way, it sucked. New lore is way better.
Oh, yeah. After lengthy evaluation, the League has begun renovations on Summoner's Rift.
Ooh.
Crews of Yordles and humans alike are being commissioned to analyze and improve every inch of the battlefield, including re-landscaping and improving encampments for indigenous creatures. This move comes following a growing list of complaints from high-profile champions over past months. The discontent began last August with Garen, who expressed frustration that the Abdication Wings, after a particularly tough battle, who expressed frustration in the Abdication Wings after a tough battle. Justice cannot be served from tired and limp foliage. The brush is just not as springy and lush as it used to be.
I'll bet it ain't.
Since Garen's remarks, several other champions have filed official requests for evaluations of everything from the way that the light illuminates the battlegrounds to personal wardrobes.
So he made the HOA.
Yep. And Xin Zhao said, "With my new look, lately some have mistaken me for Pantheon. I need the look of my armaments to make it clear that I am not anything like that arrogant barbarian."
Oh, shit. Shots fired.
Right?
Just because you wore the
Spear's
same
thrown.
outfit, like...
Now he shows up in issue 22 as well in a mailbag of justice.
Hell yeah.
Xin Zhao's story of facing hardship has been majorly inspiring to me personally. When it feels like the entire world is against you, it just seems so easy to give up. But Xin Zhao never gave up and always continued to fight. Many times in my life, I've been presented with situations where it would just be easier to give up. So my question for you, Xin Zhao, is how do you maintain the will to fight against impossible odds? What is your source of unbreakable courage and will? And Xin Zhao responded, "People often mistake what is truly hard in life. When you stand toe-to-toe against any enemy on the field of battle, options are stripped away. Fight or die. If you've thought about giving up, you're probably already dead. The courage that Jarvan II taught me, the will you speak of, was the courage to lead men, to make decisions that would lead to the deaths of friends, and to stand by them even when you know you could be wrong, or when no decision is right. To fight and die is easy when measured against this. Whenever things seem impossible, I need only to remember Jarvan II. That man would do anything for his men, and they would do anything for him, myself included, without regard for the odds or the consequences. I continue to serve his memory. Which is a nice sentiment. I don't feel like it necessarily addressed probably the specific feelings that the summoner was feeling when they wrote in. But, just if you're feeling bad, just remember Jarvan II.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm saying. Just think about J2.
Think about J2 and his crown firmly embedded in Sion's mouth.
Do you think he brushes that thing at all? You know he doesn't.
On purpose, too. He just goes around it completely.
What's the messiest thing you can have me eat right now?
Sion's a real toffee eater.
I don't know why this makes me think of Human Centipede, but...
Me neither.
It made me think of the Key and Peele sketch where the 3 Human Centipede guys all find each other out again after they've been freed. Anyway.
Human centipede?
Ayo.
Yuck.
Now, the last one is pretty short. Issue 25. After that big fight with Swain, J4 is missing.
Oh, no.
But don't worry.
Okay.
People are confident that Xin Zhao is by his side. Ironically, when J4 does reappear several issues later, psych, no, he's not.
Oh, okay.
No idea where Xin Zhao is.
I was going to say, he fell out of the lore back then, too.
Right.
Oh, no, the poor guy.
People forgetting about his existence. That's canon. That's canon Jarvan right there.
That's funny, kind of, yeah. I'm kind of into it now. You've swayed me.
This poor guy. It's like ever since he was a kid, people just forget about him.
Cellophane, Mr.
Mr. Cellophane. Oh, what a pop.
Oh, fuck.
Did you want to cover his judgment, which is the second judgment to ever happen?
Wow, this
Oh,
might
was
be
this
the
the
last
second?
one we go over.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Damn. It feels kind of like we're going out on a whimper. Not that this is terrible or anything, but it didn't blow my socks off. I don't know. Like, did you love it? It's kind of whatever.
No, it was like,
Do a lot of judgments blow your socks off?
you know, some of them are good.
I'm like kind of surprised at how many judgments. I'm like, if you tweet, like, I mean, how many times I read a judgment, I'm like, if you just kind of remove the little bit at the start and end with the summoner, it's like, this is a fine action piece for
something
this
cool
or something.
here.
Yeah.
Take out the one the one F word in Varys.
Hey, he has two
Right.
F-bombs
you're
in there.
right.
Okay.
2 F-bombs.
He says
so
frick.
He's volleying those F-bombs like
Frick.
arrows.
Fuck, what even happens in this? Oh yeah, he goes to do a judgment. They're all about how precise he is. He's in taking every exact detail of it all, and only once he's seen every detail of the hall, like he's doing an ocular pat down, right, of the summoner hall, and he goes into his little right, the little flashback, and he's that's the sound it makes. I'm sorry, that's what it does.
Yeah, that's canon.
He's back in the fleshing. He's fighting some guy who has an actual name, but the name that his own like personal like internal monologue is like they should have called him the Squeaker because this guy has a gap in his teeth, so whenever he exhales, it has a little squeak. It's kind of funny sounding. Like the guy's panting, fighting to the death, and the whole time he's just squeaking a little bit.
Sounds like a little squeak toy.
So Jarvan, he's remembering, not Jarvan, Xin Zhao is remembering fighting this guy, and they're getting into it, and the memory changes like it so often does, where normally, he would have like deflected some blow. Instead, for some reason, he's disarmed, and so he's not able to deflect it, and the guy, the Squeaker goes to like perfectly execute the stab, and he can feel the blade actually pressing into the flesh between his eyes, but it stops because there's his hand grabbing a hold of the sword, and he's sort of like laughing at, like, in spite of himself, that like, yeah, even when my memory is wrong, my body is just too perfectly trained as a weapon and just couldn't help but grab the sword on instinct. And he breaks the sword off and stabs it into the guy's head, and the crowd goes fucking nuts for it. But the guy who's stabbed, who's been wearing a helmet the whole time, doesn't die. He just kind of calmly sits down, takes off the helmet, and it's like Star Wars. He's got Jarvan the II's face under the helmet. It's like when Luke goes into the tree, right, or whatever.
We got it.
Yeah, you got it. And he's like, "Hey, how's it feel to expose your mind?" And Xin Zhao isn't on board with any of this shit, but they're like, "Just tell me, I gotta fill this. I have to fill out this form. How does it feel to expose your mind? Let's get on with this." And Xin Zhao's, he does internally. He's like, "Oh, it's worse than I could have ever imagined," but externally he says like, "It's whatever." And then the summoner's like, "Oh, worse than I could have possibly imagined. I guess I'll write that down." And then, Xin Zhao, after the end of it all, he's pretty shaken by the whole thing, funny enough. His instinct is like, he just wants to leave. He wants to run. He doesn't want to do anything more with these summoners whatsoever, which is probably the right call. But then he hears J2's voice in his head, and he's like, fight for Demacia, buddy. Or some shit,
Go get
right?
him, pal.
Go get him. And so Xin Zhao is like inspired. And whatever, he joins the League of Legends.
Inspired by that message from his old friend going, "Fight for Demacia, buddy,"
like,
or some
you gotta
shit.
get released
The
on July
laziest
13th.
bardic inspiration ever.
So yeah, he joins the league. It's kind of whatever, there's not anything like terribly exciting about it. At least in my mind, it's whatever.
Can I pee before you do AUs?
I suppose.
I don't know, can you?
Ha! Got her.
Don't fucking send me back.
So
Yeah, I like the judgments. What's up?
yeah. Oh, I was gonna ask when we should watch all these movies. We should. we've got like 6 hours of movie
content.
Actually, if we're counting Crouching Tiger and Forbidden Kingdom, we've probably got like 9 to 10 hours.
Jesus, how long is Forbidden Kingdom? Is it like a good 3 hours?
It's like a classic kung fu movie, I mean, I guess it's a little Americanized, so not as long as Crouching Tiger.
I mean, I've seen that multiple times. I remember seeing it when it it first came out, right? Like, I loved that movie when I was a kid. I say kid, I don't remember when exactly it came out.
Yeah, she was saying that. So good.
But it's been a minute. I mean, I don't know. We should. Did we ever actually nail down a date for the? I don't know what this is going in for the D&D stuff. I don't think we ever did. Not that we'll watch it with the group or anything, but
unless we will. We just lure everyone to our house under the guise of playing D&D, and we're like, psych! Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon time! And also Return to Oz. I hope you guys have brought snacks. You're in for the long haul.
We're not doing that.
What? No,
I think we're doing exactly that.
Pretend you heard nothing. Y'all want to hear about some AUs?
I do, but I need to look them up first.
Well, first up, we got some legacy.
Bam, bam, bam.
Treasures from days long past glimmering, just within reach. We have Imperial Xin Zhao, which has no lore.
Hell yeah.
Dope.
Next
He's even
up, we've
older in
got-
this one, right? Oh, sorry.
Right, yeah.
Okay. That's all.
We have Ages of Runeterra Chronicle. Legends are tested, shaped, and forged by their pasts. And this one is Viscero Xin Zhao, which also has no lore, but canonically this is his younger self back when he was a Noxian gladiator who fought in the Reckoning arenas.
Yeah, I meant to say, I kind of like that they took this skin and they seem to have leveraged it so hard for, his actual lore, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not very often that I would, see a lore-specific skin like that.
Which is pulled from his original, too. He was known as Viscero in his original lore.
Oh,
This
nice.
was a classic.
I feel superior to other League fans if I get a lore reference in the
You should.
the skins. I'm like, oh, I'm a bigger
Are
fan.
superior.
You're right. And everyone listening, you're all superior too.
Yes.
You're
we
welcome.
are superior, and so can you.
Anyway,
We got War is Heck, Commando, And this is Commando Xin Zhao.
This one's so ridiculous.
An expert at jungle warfare, Xin Zhao can harpoon a fruit from the rainforest canopy at 100 yards. He just chooses not to, because it gets fruit chunks all over his spear.
He's also wearing sunglasses in this.
You gotta.
What
That was a commando
skin,
staple.
dude.
Yeah. One less damage from Leona.
Yeah.
It's true. Forgot about that.
Next up, we got Warring Kingdoms. 3 great empires vie for land and power, bringing their all to bear in a test of martial might. Armies will clash, heroes will rise, legends will be made. This is Warring Kingdoms Xin Zhao. Legendary warrior and proud general both, Xin Zhao fights across the warring kingdoms to preserve peace for the common man. His spear is said to be sharp enough to pierce the sky, striking with the force of thunder. But he won't do it because it'll get thunder juice all over his spear.
All I could think was immediately was The Office. Her horn can pierce the sky. You know, the unicorn dolls.
I do. Now we got The Grind. Cops and robbers. Nobody puts in the work like the Piltover Police Department. Who else can lock up the most sugar-laden donuts inside their merciless stomachs, rack up the highest of overtimes, and ignore even the most menial of paperwork? The criminals may be taking advantage of it, but even they wish they had the same work ethic. This one's Secret Agent Xin Zhao. Most people who come into contact with Xin Zhao have a gap in their memory where the encounter once was. This is probably for the best, as most encounters he's involved in tend to include close encounters of the third kind, protecting civilians against terrifying extraterrestrial invaders or evading aggressive UFO dive bombers.
What a twist that took.
Right?
I know. I was looking at
You
the
thought
splash.
it was Secret Agent, but this shit's MIB, baby.
Right?
I was looking at the skin, and I was like, why is there like a tentacle in this?
Exactly. Had the exact same thought.
Now, fun fact, and this was from the skin release, he wields the Mark VII clandestine class Utilispear. He wears a hands-free mobile device in-game. It is missing from his artwork. And if you zoom in on his splash art from the asset kit, a reflection of Secret Agent Misfortune can be seen in his shades.
Wow, that is so you mean like the in-game model?
Yeah, you gotta zoom in.
Oh my
on that
god.
shit.
That's wild.
Next up, we got Dragon World.
The Dragon World.
Twice did Dragonfire consume the world. Twice from the embers were heroes born. This is Dragon Slayer Xin Zhao. The sorceress called a great mountain her home, and from it, reborn dragons poured endlessly into the sky. Though dragon slayers fell all around him, Xin Zhao struck into the monster's lair, determined to end her evil once and for all. And so Dragon Slayer Xin Zhao, Dragon Slayer Vayne, and Dragon Slayer Braum, and Dragon Slayer Jarvan IV are part of the second wave of Dragon Slayers who arose to fight, the Dragon Queen Zyra, who was the second kind of Lord of the Dragons.
My girl.
Okay.
And then we've got Event Horizon Cosmic. Vast stardust creatures control the ebb and flow of creation, painting the cosmos with sublime light as their celestial court drifts along the fabric of time and space. I do love how, ethereal the lore blurb is for that compared to the Dark Star half of it. This one's Cosmic Defender Xin Zhao. Great horrors are attracted to the light of newborn stars, from the corruptance of the Dark Star to squirming, ancient things yet unknown. Xin Zhao is the steadfast protector of these cosmic cradles, driving off any that would devour them. And there's a short story here, Ambition's Embrace. This is kind of the Lux story, but the Xin Zhao parts of it there was a great cosmic council. Xin Zhao was the second to arrive, only behind Yi, who probably cheated because he's fucking Yi. And Xin Zhao was the first to speak at the council. Said, long has it been since last we all were met. And Ash notices, Ash smiles a bit at him and mentions that despite being a bit formal, his focus and dedication in his protection of nebulas that cradle the birth of new stars always filled her with deep admiration and appreciation. Xin Zhao is also the first to notice that Jin is missing, because Jin used to be part of the Cosmic Court before he became Dark Star Jin. And he also suggests... he kind of gives the good idea at the meeting. They're all talking about the Dark Star, and Xin Zhao's like, hey, there's a lot of us, right? Let's all go and fight him, right? Like, that's probably our best chance of beating him. And Ash was like, no, that might be just what he wants, to get us all in the same place at the same time. Let's send Lux to go 1v1 him instead, which goes predictably.
Does he also blame himself for failing to protect Lux?
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
That's the post-credit scene. Then we have the Institute of War, Marauder. A horde of nomadic warriors with a taste for brutality, the Marauders are all that remain of Mage Lord warrior culture, their ancient traditions abandoned in favor of anarchic shows of force. No dispute is settled until blood is spilled, even within their own ranks. They lost sight of what led their ancestors to war in the first place and what ultimately led to their victory. This is Marauder Xin Zhao. Though brutal, the Marauders still follow a martial order established during the era of the Mage Lords. These commanders seek only to reclaim the might with which their order once ruled. Xin Zhao is one half of the pair of current leaders. Pragmatic and measured, he has resurrected an ancient Mage Lord to destroy his foes once and for all.
Is this like another skin? Like, who's this Mage Lord I heard so much about?
I don't know. I would assume it's another skin. I didn't look too carefully, though.
Let's keep an eye out for it.
Tune in for our Institute of War Marauder episode after we finish all the champions. Next up, we got Wonders of the World. Individuals hailing from the far-flung universe of Earth, where giant statues come to life and everyone is wearing a fun hat. It's a lot like Runeterra if you think about it, which I feel like is doubly true now that they had that hat mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Winged Hussar Xin Zhao, which, the is common in Lithuania, Poland, and Serbia, though this skin in particular was released with the launch of the Polish server. A member of the vaunted Winged Hussars, Xin Zhao is one of the last standard bearers of a military order tracing its roots back to the late 17th century. Of course, his progenitors didn't ride an army of black Pegasi into battle, but you know how it is. Then we have a Lunar Revel Firecracker. The Lunar New Year has arrived, and so has the party. With food and festivities to spare, it's all about ringing it in with friends and families. Now strike up a match and watch the fireworks. It's Firecracker Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao's a popular man at the New Year's festival, and not just because he hands out a lot of red envelopes. He is the reliable protector that keeps his more chaotic friends from getting into often explosive mischief, and does it all with a cool, casual grace that leaves everyone swooning. And he's in the cinematic Almost Home. It's got, all of those firecracker skins trying to get home. We've got Teemo, Tristana, Diana, Xin Zhao, and Set, all on kind of like a cart, on a cable cart going up a massive mountain. When lightning strikes and all heck breaks loose.
Not the heck.
Not the heck, but it is the heck.
Oh, no.
They each kind of have their moment to shine here. So first, like a giant boulder is going to crash into the cart and, explode everyone. And then Set jumps up and he punches it into a bunch of pieces, but then like the pieces are also falling and they're going to kind of pierce the cart in a bunch of places. So Xin Zhao jumps on the roof and he bats the pieces aside one by one.
Yeah.
That's kind of his role. Other people also save the day in this cinematic, but
They
go
don't
watch
matter.
it. It's cute.
It's not there, yeah.
This is also the 5th time we're talking about it.
And now we've got a few special skins.
Special skins.
Tournament of Souls, which is a
Okay.
Wild Rift exclusive.
Okay, that's why you said
They're
it's so
showing
weird.
up here.
You said it like you're like take me to like the back part of like the video store that's behind the beaded curtain.
Yo, I always was so curious to go back there.
There's nothing back
Right.
there, right? You think it's porn? It's not. It's nothing.
It's just a quiet space.
It's a quiet space. No kids.
It's all the parents having like a glass
Just
of wine
sitting
while their
down.
kids look through the cartoons. Their souls awaken by trial, one fought on a battlefield or in the very trenches of the mind. Each is granted unique abilities reflective of their nature and the power to conjure forth the very essence of their spirit. Some hone their strength, temper it with training. Others will use it only as a weapon to destroy. They are Soul Fighters.
Yeah, this one's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is Soul Fighter Xin Zhao. A spear-wielding master, this self-hating heartthrob spent years working for Dema. That's right, those guys who think soul powers are bad. Hilarious, am I right? Well, despite his checkered past, he's found himself with a lot of time to think about what he's done, and feel bad about it. Welcome, the Seneschal of Dema, Xin Zhao!
I like the way that this one's written. This is kind of fun.
Yeah, all of the Soul Fighter skins are all written like like an announcer is
Yeah.
presenting them to the crowd. And I've got great news for you guys.
Oh.
There's a prestige version of this skin.
Ooh.
Oh, lovely.
And you know what that means.
Yes, we do.
This time, Xin Zhao has come with a truly unique and eye-catching outfit. The unique design is at the forefront. I got lost in that. Is a forefront of fashion and filled with individuality, making it unforgettable. The elegant and exquisite details and accessories amplify his exceptional taste. His every action exudes confidence and strength, ensuring that he is the limelight of any situation. His existence in itself cannot be ignored, and his charm is unforgettable.
Whoa.
Damn. I feel like this one they got really into his personality. Lots of times it's just the outfit.
Yeah.
But this
Right?
time, dude. Yeah.
And it's the most words that say unique and unforgettable and eye-catching while also not saying a single thing about what the outfit
I kept
looks
waiting for it.
It's a good point.
I feel like I just got edged. What's wrong? I thought maybe I spaced out really hard, but you just confirmed that no, they don't actually describe the
You don't get to hear
outfit.
shit about but it's unique. It's got so many details. What details,
Right.
you may ask?
What even would
Fuck
you-
right off.
Google it, motherfucker.
Right.
And he shows up in the minigame for this too. So in this game, it basically, as opposed to the client one, like the PC one that follows Samira and her fight up the ranks to fight Viego, this one follows Yasuo in his ranks up to fight Draven. And one of the steps along the way is Xin Zhao. So Xin Zhao and Aurelia are in what's called the Lands Beyond, which they don't exactly know what that is, but they both won the tournament at some other point, and kind of the thing is, like, if you win, you get your heart's desire, kind of like the fucking Twisted Metal tournament. But that when they made their wish, they got transported here. So they were like, maybe this is just where all the winners go? I don't I don't know. There's not a lot of people here, so that tracks, I guess. And then Yasuo shows up, and they're like, oh, you won the tournament too? And he had just finished a round where he had just forfeited and refused to fight. So he's like, no, I lost. I forfeited. They're like, oh, god damn it, back to square one. Where the hell is this place? So they're all talking, and then they find out that Xin Zhao was part of DEMA, which for the record stands for the Department for the Eradication of Manifested Anomalies, or in other words, they just want to eliminate soul fighters. Now, Yasuo lost his master to DEMA and lost his arm.
Oh my.
So he is pretty pissed to find this out. And, Xin Zhao no longer believes in the cause after having had time to reflect, but Yasuo is still pissed. So Xin Zhao points him in the direction to find more information on how to get out of the place, so Yasuo moves along in pieces, and that's the last we see of Xin Zhao.
They're still stuck in,
Yasuo
the
continues
void.
his climb up the ladder. And we got one more Wild Rift exclusive. This one is Glorious, set in a world where champions try to conquer the Tower of Heroes. This is Glorious Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao is a loyal guardian of his clan, dedicated to upholding its honor and mission and willing to give up everything for the good of the clan. Having inherited the formidable might of the draconic Scion, the armor-clad seasoned warrior is ever the picture of composure and valor, even in the face of danger. Now tasked with venturing into the Tower of Heroes that has emerged atop Peak of Dragon, Xin Zhao's ready to stop all who have set their covetous eyes on the elixir.
I feel like I need more skins from this line because it all feels like, I don't know, Mad Libs almost. Right? Like
this, to me, this sounds like the Tournament of Souls a bit. Just
yeah, right.
People having to fight through a tower of enemies until you get to the top and get an elixir sounds a lot like people having to fight through a tower of enemies and until you get to the top and get your wish.
A wish, yeah.
I do like the Mad Libs though, because like elixir would have been one of the blanks, right?
Yeah, right. I need some sort of treasure. Elixir. He loves his blank. I need some sort of faction. Clan?
Peak of the Dragon?
Butts? Come on, guys. Yeah. I don't know.
But those are all the AUs.
Nice.
And I have a handful of fun facts.
I can't wait.
Not too many. Not too few.
Okay.
It might be too few. I'm sorry if it's too few.
Gee.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
John, just read them.
So I was channeling my inner Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao is voiced by Richard Epcar.
Nice.
He was
He was an intern at the time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He was released right when season 1 started.
Damn, yeah.
Xin Zhao's dance references Sung Min Ya's dance from Soul Calibur 2. And finally, him breaking the incoming arrows in his base splash references one of the changes he received in his kit to his ultimate, which grants him invulnerability against enemy champions that are at a certain distance from him. So, neat.
Yeah, it is neat.
That's it.
That's it. That's Xin Zhao.
That's it.
so.
Any more thoughts?
I don't know.
I need that follow-up story.
Yeah.
Yeah, real bad.
Give me the I'm not normally a fan of the escort missions, but give me that story.
Yeah.
I want that Sona escort mission.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just impressed that I ended up liking him so much for, like I said, there's nothing, I find him to be a very uncompelling character in League of Legends. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's nothing about him that it's funny we talked about him kind of getting forgotten in the lore because I forget about him a lot.
Literally all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like his lore. At the end of it, I'm into him. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yay. Good job, Riot.
From the old
That was
thumbs
so
up.
mean. That felt so condescending. I meant it.
Yeah, no, it's genuine.
That was Xin Zhao. Thank you so much for listening. We have a Twitch. It's twitch.tv/loreheads. John streams on Saturdays. He does TFT and ARAMs with viewers. And then I stream on Fridays. We do some Rift games together. And I'm going to be doing probably Mondays. I'm going to shoot for Mondays to do some writing sprints. And then I'll probably game a little bit afterwards. I did it Tuesday this week. Monday's the goal, but it might be Tuesdays. We'll see. We also have a YouTube. You want to see our beautiful faces, especially John's beautiful face, which gets drowned out by his jacket. Yeah, you can go check that out if you want to see John's jacket and tell him to get rid of it. We have a Discord. You want to talk to some people? Tag John. Tell him to get rid of this orange
it's so comfortable
sweater. At this point, it's just like, I feel like I have to as part of the joke. It's part of my character now, you know? It's a new core memory. There's an island. Make fun of John's orange hoodie. It's a very important part of my brain now. Yeah, there's a link to the Discord in the description of this episode if you want to, check it out. Check it out. And if you want to play ARAMs with John's on Saturday, if you want to like get in the chat, you're going to have to check out the Discord. We have a Patreon. Thank you so much to all of our patrons.
But a very special thank you to our Medarda tier patrons, King of Hearts and Mr. Dead. If you were in a fleshing pit about to take on 300 Noxian gladiators, I would also stage an attack on Noxus and sneak in and rescue you. And I guess the other 300, but like you guys are the priority. If I had to choose between you and the 300, like it's gonna be you too. Sorry, 300.
I like that. I like that you really clarified. Like, just to be clear, you are a step above those other people.
This is not a number. This is not a trolley problem for me. It's gonna be you two.
I still don't like that it's called the fleshing pit. I really don't think they had to do that.
Yeah.
Do they call it the fleshing
it's a
pits?
choice.
I thought they'd only call it the fleshing. I think
It's just called the fleshing.
Oh, okay. John's starting to put pits in there.
Sorry, you know me and pits.
You know him. You give him
He's licking mine all the time.
Pits in the bits, baby.
Tube in the womb. The pits in the bits. We all know what kind of man he is. Well, with that, everybody, we're done with the X's. We have 2 letters left. And then we're all just going to die, I think. We'll all perish.
Drift into the nothingness of space.
Yeah. Well, nothing left.
Right.
But until then, join us next week because we're going to talk about the Unforgiven Yasuo.